Jordan, let's continue on here. Over the last several years, you've done quite a bit of research, going back to the Celtic time a couple thousand years ago, the Druids, other things. Can you give us a couple-minute overview of the history of what you found here?
Yes, it's extensive. It's an extensive history, and many people probably don't know it, actually, that the Halloween that we celebrate today actually dates back 2,000 years ago to the Celts, or like the Druids, as you mentioned. And it was called a holiday of Samhain. And what they would do is they believed that the veil, I guess, between death and life was very thin during that time. This was a pagan theology that they believed. So they would prophesy, they would pray and try to entreat these spirits to be kind to them, that the gods would be kind to them for crops and fertility and all of these things. But a lot of the rituals that surrounded this festival, or this last final harvest that they would celebrate, was things like human sacrifice, whether it be prisoners or just their own people, and then they would put the bodies on these piers and burn them, but they believed that their god wanted human sacrifice. So we fast forward a little bit, and then the Romans started obviously coming in and conquering those lands, the Brits, the Gauls, the Celts. They actually had two festivals that they lumped in, and that's what Romans did, is that they would go and they would conquer these people, and then they would bring in their holidays. They did this with Christians as well. We're going to take your god and put him in our temple, and now we can govern you, we have your god, all is gravy. So they started practicing and doing the exact same things that the Celts were doing, and they brought that in. Well, then we fast forward a little bit further to where the Catholic era was happening, and as we all know, that there was a lot of persecution happening within the saints and underneath the Roman they were persecuting Christians. That's what they did. They were also persecuting Jews and Muslims, but specifically I'm speaking about Christians. The Romans were starting to adopt a little bit more of the Catholicism within their own government, and they brought in I think it was the diocese is what he was called back then, and said, hey, you can take a holiday to mourn all of the saints that have been martyred. How do you want to do this? And by that time, many people had been martyred. And so the diocese said, well, you know what? We're going to go ahead and just do one day and celebrate them all. But the thing is, they kept all of the Celtic pagan traditions. They dressed up. They paraded around in demons and Satan masks and did the jack-o'-lantern things, and basically took all of the pagan Celtic worship, instead of whitewashing it like they were supposed to, or they said they were, and then they actually extended it. So they had November 1st and November 2nd a part of it, because they wanted to, the people who were in purgatory and the people who were in heaven, they did everybody. So fast forward a little bit further, the Puritans who came over to America said, hey, we don't want any part of that. It's too Catholic, it's too pagan, we don't want any of that. Then the potato famine happened in Ireland. All of these Irish Catholics came over, and they brought all of their traditions over. They brought all of their superstitions over. So the black cats, the witches, the white magic, the Wiccan, the ghosts, the ghouls, the jack-o'-lanterns, the trick-or-treating, all of it. They brought all of that with them, and it was considered a holiday in the 1920s to 1930s here in America, and it became official.
Wow, you just did a great job explaining a long history in a few minutes. By the way, for those of you viewing this, I want to let you know that via attachment, Chris and Jordan will have the testimony and their whole research, along with things that she's saying today. Verbally, they'll be written down even more extensively. I'd encourage you to read that document for your own research and your own spiritual growth. For those of you close to coming to Christ, it'll be very fascinating for you as you consider Jesus. And for those of you who know Jesus, it'll be great for you to look at a very considerable amount of research on this. Jordan, let's talk further. You and Chris are Bible students. You just graduated from a university in the area of Bible, and congratulations on that. Talk a little bit more about some other things you've learned.
So, when I was doing my research, trying to build my case to convince my husband that, my convictions were not just, these silly things that I felt and stuff, and they actually had theological basis to not do, I found out some interesting facts about Halloween that many people may not know. One that they might know is that Halloween is actually considered the high holy day of Satanist worship. October 31st is the day that when witches, warlocks, whatever they call themselves, they come out of the woodworks and they get together and they will have orgies, they will sacrifice children depending on what country it's in, specifically Latin America, Africa, and it's horrific, but it does happen. Now a lot of people are probably going to say, oh, that's a little extreme, you're being extremist. I'm truly not, and if people do their due diligence and do their own research, they will find cases of this. And the same thing goes with animal cruelty, with black cats specifically, because of those superstitions brought over from Ireland. Something about black cats and witches and stuff. So black cats are notoriously the number one animal that are at risk because of those superstitions, which is really sad. The other thing too, we talked a little bit about the human sacrifice that happens in Africa, and this for me was one of those things that I was just like, I can't unsee the things that I saw. In fact, in Dallas, we were talking about this a little bit earlier before we started this recording, that they're unapologetically doing it now. In Dallas, and this is on the internet, everybody can see it, they're unabashedly proud of it. But they had a billboard outside of Dallas saying, hey, if you're thinking about an abortion, you can be a part of a satanic ritual and we'll do it for you. So I would encourage you to check those things out and, and be a Berean. Check me out on this information and see it for yourself, because I think that that's the most important way that we can grow and just be aware of what's going on the days that we think, we're just having fun and it's all about candy, and it's not.
Yeah.
So I would also say that there is, on the Satanist website, I spent several hours of my life on the Satanist website, and Anton LaVey, he's the founder of the Satanist Church, they love it. He actually has a quote here that I wrote down, that he said, I am glad that Christian parents let their children worship the devil at least one night of the year. Welcome to Halloween. So that'll get you a little bit in the feels when you really consider those words and those sentiments that are being put out there. And then two more disturbing things that I found that were pretty prevalent and widely recorded in secular newspapers and within communities, HOA boards, is that witches notoriously get on there and brag. We're cursing the kids' candies and passing it out to them. And now we have TikTok, so they put it out on TikTok. And some even go as far, very satanic people and sadists will put razor blades or tacks or things in your kids' candy because they just really enjoy that. Halloween for them is a day of lowering your inhibitions and doing whatever you feel you want to do. And if you want to hurt people, tonight's the night you do it. So with that being said, those are just some of the darker corners of that night that really bothered me and stuck with me. And I didn't know until I researched it. And especially as a mom, you don't consider these things until you hear the horror stories and go, oh, okay.
I appreciate you sharing that. And it is very real, and not just in Africa, Asia, but it's real. It's here in America.
It is.
My wife and I, when we used to live in Southern California, there were extensive, dense orange groves literally across the street from us, where every Halloween animals were offered up as sacrifices. We know that as a fact. Yesterday, I was actually watching a secular program, that was expressing their concern from a secular standpoint of fentanyl being placed into Halloween candy this particular Christmas.
Yes.
Incredible, Jordan. As we move to our close, what are some practical steps? What are some how-tos as viewers where we can say, I'm not a legalist, I agree with Jordan, but what do I do with my kids? What do I do with my grandkids? Help me.
Right. No, and that's the hardest part. That honestly is the hardest part. When I remember telling our kids and saying, hey, we're not going to do Halloween this year. And, I can't dress up and I can't get candy. And they did have a little bit of a meltdown, but once we explained it to them and just really had a heart-to-heart, moment, I started to ask them, hey, where do you see Jesus in all this? Like, we'd go to Walmart and Target and stuff with Halloween decorations and say, we're going to play a game. I want you to find something about Jesus in all of these decorations. And it was really eye-opening for my 9-year-old to be like, Mom, I don't see Jesus. And I'm like, well, yeah, because he's not involved in this. We, as a family, decided that we were going to do some alternatives. Instead of, we still do candy. We're going to do like little fall things. We make it a celebratory thing about what God created. He created fall. He created the colors. He created pumpkins.
Yes.
He created everything that we should be celebrating. So we still decorate. We put pumpkins out. We don't carve them, but we put pumpkins out. We make pumpkin chai lattes. My husband still drinks out of his festive mugs because that's what we do. The Hekausiks don't just not have fun. Like that is legalism. We enjoy the holiday, but we enjoy it as a family, and we do it in a way that honors Christ and doesn't make us feel guilty. And maybe you celebrate Sukkot or something and start learning about our Jewish heritage as Christians. Or maybe you give the kids $10. That's what we're planning on doing. $10. Go buy whatever you want, and then we'll watch a movie at home, or have a little fall fest at your house. And that's a great way to evangelize. Give other people options of what they can do other than trick-or-treating, because there are a lot of Christian families who are like, I don't really like it, but they feel that societal pressure to participate.
Sure.
Because their kids, I want to wear my costumes. There are other options out there, and we just, if you're feeling convicted, I just want to encourage you, take that step to say, this year we're going to try something different, and it's okay. It's okay.
Well, that's great. Jordan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate you sharing. This is Jordan and Greg with Grace Global Network. Chris behind the camera. I want to thank my precious wife for sharing our home for this interview. God bless you. And I want to remind you, we are in a spiritual battle. Whatever view you have on Halloween, the reality is demons are real. Demons aren't a joke. Satan is real, and he hates you, Christian. He hates you, non-Christian, though you may still belong to him. He hates you if you're getting close to receiving Christ. He'll do everything he can. So this Halloween, I hope this is a time of spiritual reflection. Use discernment with the things that have been said, but use discernment from the Word of God. Appreciate Jordan, your sharing, and God bless you. Greg Kappas with Jordan, signing off.